To Light Priestess Temple Community Creator Spotlight. And this is our incredible live connection with incredible grid workers, activators, wayshowers, and leaders of the new golden age, and coming in live to share their wisdoms, their magic, and their key codes. And today, very special sister, grid worker, and spiritual support consultant, facilitator, ALIYAH Inez Sylls-ha. Welcome, sister.
Thank
Welcome.
you. Thank you for having me.
I'm so excited to introduce you to the community, and we have so much to talk about. We started talking already, and it's like, oh, yes, yes, yes. And this is the incredible subjects that ALIYAH has. Her grid working ability, her channeling ability, and her connection with source is just going to knock your socks off. And so it's Inter-Temporal healing waves, new temples of light, and the age of mastery. Like, what more could we want? And I just want to start off with welcoming ALIYAH, and as we open this beautiful live with the Inter-Temporal healing waves. Please explain, what is that? I know with the healing and all that we're doing, this has been a really incredible journey and a lot of ascension connections, and the beloveds all want to know, like, where are we at? What's happening? So please, ALIYAH, like, share with us your knowledge.
Well, thank you, first of all, for having me. I'm really excited to connect with you all today. I connected with my guides before coming on. I knew I had an opportunity to reach out to the community and wanted to take advantage to bring forth something that could enliven our journeys collectively as we're all reclaiming our soul mastery. And something that came through was dealing with what Jennifer has just described as intertemporal healing waves. That's what I call it, because we're looking at different time scales, different levels of time. We might perceive it as past and future, but on a bigger scope, we might see it as happening synchronistically and even concentrically from the core out in all these different wavelengths, you could say. And so things that are happening in this present moment, and as we focus on our now, we might realize that our now is expanding. It's getting bigger to include what used to be considered separate as past or as future. We're seeing these parallel selves that are embodied within us all at once, interacting with one another. And so as we are reclaiming each part of our own soul's story, we are transmuting things on behalf of our ancestors and our generations to come. The work that we're doing within ourselves is a part of a much larger story. And we are participating with ancestor groups as well as inner earth alliances that are helping us to create amendments in our soul story as human beings. A lot of this is relating to the Atlantean times. And so we're finally getting to the root of a lot of our karmic cycles as a collective. It can feel like we're doing this shadow work forever. And it's like, does it ever end, And
does
it? But we're finally reaching a point where we're pulling at some of these threads at their root, at their beginning. And it doesn't really have a beginning in a way. It's kind of just these ripples and these things that are kind of suspended in time and held by our attention to them. So as our attention shifts, as our observation of them shifts, it ripples out and changes everything. Human beings are exquisite, magnificent creations that are intersections, essentially, of multiple dimensions and multiple levels of time, whether it's rooted at the gross level of experiencing our bodies, or our emotional plane, or our mental plane, or our spiritual connection, all the way up to source. We can pull from all these different levels of experience and transmute a wide gamut of traumas or confusion, distortion, and bring it back into alignment with the wholeness of our being. And the exciting part about that is that the more we do these clearings, the more we take the time to sit with our inner child and to acknowledge what it is we need and how to nurture ourselves, we're making way for major codes that are already incoming, already being offered to us to integrate within ourselves, that are meant to allow us to become the creators we were always meant to be, really, so that we can go more direct with our vision. A lot of times we feel like we have to figure out all the details to create our dream. We're like, okay, so where am I going to get the money, and how am I going to build the house, and how am I going to make this a thing, right? But we're discovering collectively, rediscovering, reclaiming the truth that we're masters on a much higher, more mystical level. it's not all about the little details. It's more about the truth of our vision and aligning in integrity with what we truly want and what we truly know is good for us. And so these incoming codes that grid workers like Jennifer and myself uh, are bringing in these codes for are allowing us to ignite our ability to go to our inner vision, sharpen it, and focus it in such a way where we're going to start to see our imagination translating into our outer experience more rapidly, more directly, more literally, more synchronicities, and things of that nature. So,
So
yeah.
how with this healing,
Mhm.
and you were mentioning how it goes back in all times and all ancestral lines.
Mhm.
How does how does one we're clearing something when this happens? You must have brought up some things in the
Mhm.
beloveds. They're clearing because all of a sudden my throat is catching, which is the words you're using and the ideas are such large concepts, but it's so beautiful because we're walking through this. So how can one open this healing within themselves if they haven't, or to know that they have been? What are some markers or some
Mhm.
indications?
Well, some indications that you might be experiencing this is in your interactions with other people. You might be bumping into people that are part of your soul group or a part of a volunteer mission that you've taken on to transmute some of these things. Some of the more uncomfortable realities of this might be situations where you find yourself in a power position and someone is kind of the underdog, or vice versa, where you're the underdog and they're the
Mm.
power player. And you have an opportunity then to either abuse that power or actually use it to elevate the other person, or you have the opportunity to play yourself down and dampen your light, or you have the opportunity to let yourself shine. We're making new
Mm.
choices actively in the moment that translate to larger patterns of victim victimizer conflicts in ways that we sometimes tug and pull at each other, and instead choosing unity, choosing equity. And those simple choices in our daily lives might seem mundane, but are actually a part of a larger thing that's going on. Another area of it is dream time. A lot of people are doing really, really intense dream work right now. I've been talking to
Mm.
some sisters that have been saying that they wake up feeling like they were doing so much in the night, like they weren't even resting, they were working all night.
Mhm.
And a lot of that is coming through. With these healing ripples. Some of it also relates to ceremonial work that's happening on higher planes. You might have really trippy dreams where it seems like there's some conflict that brings up emotions, and then instead of staying in that trauma state, there's some amendment made. Somebody apologizes, somebody offers a gift, there's some soothing. And you might wake up confused thinking like, was it a bad dream or a good dream? I can't tell. But it was actually an opportunity to open something and then release it. And it's happening more and more rapidly. And there's a lot of support also in the spiritual realm for it. So,
So, and these ceremonies and this dream time,
mhm.
a lot of sisters and brothers are waking up tired. I'm waking up tired. I think I've been doing a lot. So how do you know, or how can you assess if it's not remembered, where you're at with your healing or your mastery or your way showing? Because I feel our community are more the leaders, the way showers, and the creators of the new
Mhm.
age, and they are already doing this deep soul work.
Mhm.
And now they're more into the light at the end of the tunnel, where now we're creating the temples of light and we're creating our
Mhm.
highest masteries.
Mhm.
And so how do you know where you're at on that spectrum?
Well, if you do remember some of your dreams, journaling is always a really good idea. Another thing to do is incorporate pranayama, some breathing work, into your daily life. That can really help
Mm.
with retaining the memories of your dreams. And I just find in general that if you can remember your dreams and work with them, analyze them, you can get a lot of information from them. You don't have to overanalyze because sometimes it can just take you down a rabbit hole. But if you notice that something really clearly triggered you, it might be an opportunity to kind of acknowledge that a clearing has happened. But a way that you can know if you have reached that light at the end of the tunnel is just seeing how well you deal with yourself in what could be uncomfortable situations. Are you able to laugh at yourself? Are you able to see yourself in others? Are you able to let things go? Or do you hold a tension, because that tension, that resistance might be an opportunity to kind of dig a little deeper and say, what can I release here? What can I make more space for? Because I tell you, the light codes that are coming in are no joke, and we want to jump on them. I mean, I, for one, know that I want to let these things pass and release whatever these healing waves are so that I can jump on the next wave, which is not so much about healing the pains of the past, but reclaiming our creative abilities, our imagination, our playful relationship with the divine. So, yeah.
Amazing. So you feel the healing waves. Is it more of like a plasma waves that come in to that might have do they have like chinks in the armor, or are there spots in the field of traumas or unhealed portals? Or are they a cleansing wave and they're in pure divine unison? Like, tell me more
I'm
about
sure
those.
there's a mixture of both. But I would say that what I'm perceiving is that if we were to look at a clock from the olden times, where oftentimes they'd have like rings that showed different scales of time. You have the minutes, you have the hours, you might have the days, the months, different planetary movements. If you can imagine a certain alignment occurring naturally through the gates of time itself, there's these bridges being created between here and now and there and then, whether that was the Atlantean period or some period in between. I've had dreams coming up with my Native American lineage, making amendments with my European lineage, because I have both sides in myself.
Oh,
So
amazing.
yeah, and I've been interacting with my ancestors together in communion with one another to apologize and
Oh.
to embrace one another and to acknowledge, wow, there was hurt on both sides, and we can resolve that by remembering who we really are. And there's even work going on with resurrecting spirits that have been kind of stuck in lower states, and participating through our prayer and through our intention to lift those souls so that they can move on. And that's releasing a lot of stagnation for the collective as a whole. So
That's
yeah,
amazing. That's amazing
it's been really
work.
profound.
Wow.
Yeah.
And so with this healing, and then
Mhm.
is the next stage as you work more in the temples of light, or so let's
Mhm.
talk about that.
Yeah. The temples of light are really fun to talk about. So first I want to talk a little bit about what temples of light are. We talk about it a lot, and I think we all have some idea of it, but I just kind of want to review the basics of it. And I've got my
Please
notes
do.
here just so that I've
And
got a little
templating. I
support.
like how you said that, templating, light
Yeah.
templating.
Yeah. So the light temples are made up of light sound and color vibration in standing scalar waves, plasma structures, or light forms. So these are amassed light, amassed photons, if you will, that hold energy as well as information. And they're held in place by the observer effect. Us realizing them and experiencing them in our own unique way is what's holding them and anchoring them here, because we are sort of the antennas on the ground. As these cosmic waves come in, our observation anchors it, as well as the observation of other forms of consciousness that are here. The elemental kingdom is participating. The ancestors and other interdimensionals are also holding their focus on these light structures and helping to grid them in place through their acknowledgement of them. So you might perceive it as you're walking through nature and just feel something, a core resonance with a particular place. You just feel Mama Gaia speaking to you in that moment. And it can come through in whatever language works for you. There's no wrong way to see it, really. But in that moment of acknowledging it and appreciating it, you're amplifying it, and you're giving it almost like a coalesced gelatinous essence about it. The plasma is becoming more palatable, so that when you move on from that space, the next person that comes in is able to feel that amplitude and contribute to it, so it continues to grow. A good analogy for us as grid workers, for me, is bodies of water, looking at ways that we can cleanse the rivers and clean out the conduits so that the waters can circulate and so that our reservoirs can be filled. And that's where light temples really come in, is as reservoirs of energy that then become sanctuaries for others on their journey. Some of us have done a lot of shadow work, a lot of grid work. We're already on that next level where we're ready to create new things. But there's a whole next generation behind us that's maybe just getting started. And they're not going to take nearly as long as we did as the frontline crew, because of the work that we're doing to create these reservoirs that they're going to be able to pass through and replenish themselves with. So these light structures are made up of these standing scalar waves. They're electromagnetic energies that are being held in place by the earth grid itself and by our observation of it at different points all over the world to serve different purposes. One that I was telling Jennifer about earlier was one that's opening up in the region of Iran, and is being held in place by the ancestor spirits of that part of the world, as well as everyone else who is observing it and witnessing what's going on there. And without attachment to a particular outcome or trying to force anything in place, we're all sending this energy into this huge sort of what do I want to say, goblet almost. It's like a big bowl full of energies. The way I saw it, I tried to travel to that region and just offer my love and support to whoever needs it in that part of the world. And I saw this huge platform of pink light that was spread out over that region of the world, and this white lotus with pink tips emanating from its center and sort of creating this fountain of energy. And I was seeing the souls of that region of the world when they were sleeping or having a spiritual experience, rising in their frequency and mixing and mingling in that pink light, and then going back feeling refreshed. So, again, however you perceive it, you might see it in a different way than that or less literal. But ultimately, it's just an acknowledgement of a coalescing and gathering of energies to a particular point that can then be accessed and used to revive our spirits as we move along the path. And we're all participating in different ways to build that. And each of us has the creative capacity and the spiritual authority to build these light temples. If you know of someone who is in need, you can imagine a dome of light over them and really accept that it's there, that they are being protected by this. You can really work with light. Think of it as painting or something. That's the way I like to see it. Another way I like to see it is as gardening. Sometimes I like to create flowers made of light in my mind's eye and imagine myself planting it in different places, sometimes in my friends' homes or around my community, and then just showering it with energy and really accepting that all of the nature beings, all of the spiritual beings that we're interacting with are helping by observing it and appreciating it so that it holds in place and creates a shared resonance that will affect reality. I've seen it myself. It really can.
What have you seen in the physical from these?
Okay, I got a really fun story.
Okay, good.
At one point, I was living at a little Airbnb temporarily, and down the street there was a household where there were lots of kids and mom and dad. And dad was often yelling at the kids, cursing at the kids. He had a lot of anger and he was taking it out on the kiddos. And I was hearing it kind of day after day, and it was a little stressful. I didn't really like the atmosphere it was creating. And so I decided to say a little prayer for them and just try to soothe whatever was going on in their space. And I actually went so far as to project outwards this flower and offer it. That was the sense. I'm offering this white flower of serene energy to this household and to this family, and anyone amongst them who would like to take some nourishment and love from it is welcome to do so. And I left it there, and I tell you, no more yelling, no more anything. It stopped that day. And I thought, maybe they're not home. Maybe they went somewhere. And so I took a little walk down the street, and sure enough, he's sitting outside smoking a cigarette while his kids are playing in the yard, just like always, but no yelling. Could be a coincidence, but things like that have actually happened so many times that at this point I'm convinced that there was actually something that I gave them, something that I offered through my intent, and that they were able to acknowledge perhaps on a higher level of consciousness that they didn't immediately perceive outwardly, and were able to take in that intention of peace. And so the way I'm looking at this is really the power of our prayer, the power of our faith, and the power of our imagination to imagine a better situation and to simply say, that's what I want. That's what I want to see here, and to offer it to the world. It's not something that we have to force or that we have to be attached to, like it has to go a certain way. But the more that we acknowledge our own power to be creators of good in the world through just our innocent desire for it to be that way, I think the more we're going to start to see that happening to the point where we really feel our magic. We feel it in our fingertips.
Amazing. We are our own temples of light.
We are.
So as the temples of light are being created because our consciousness has reached a certain level, do they become a grid work? Do they become a infrastructure? Do they become a sanctuaries of light around the world, and then it becomes its own Earth star grid? Like, what do you see for the temples of light on Earth?
All of that really resonates. I think everything you described sounds like what I would expect. I don't know exactly how each thing will manifest for us, but I think that we can dream as big as we want. We can imagine that these things are going to become something that we can physically experience. I do see new gatherings of people, new communities being formed in these areas that people are being called to cultivate these reservoirs of energy that are going to be sort of hubs of the Christed light that's landing here that other people can pass through and get a hold of and then spread to their temples of light. And we're all participating. Everyone's involved in their own capacity. Some people are still in the muck and mire and working through the drudges, and that doesn't mean that they did anything wrong or that they're late for the show. They're just handling another segment of it all. We all have our piece of the puzzle, and we're all lending a helping hand, like a chain gang passing each of the codes along. So I think that the ways that it can manifest are really wide reaching. It could be as simple as someone deciding that they want to build a school in their community. And that school could be more than a school. It could actually be an anchoring point for one of these temples of light to manifest in full form. It looks like a school on the outside, and you step inside and there's all these enlightened kids that are having these beautiful epiphanies, and it's actually because they're tapping directly into that. Another area, it might be a holistic hospital opening up at last so that we can get access to natural health care like never before. It could be someone starting a new family and moving into a community that's maybe in need of upliftment, and their happiness and radiance just showering out, tapping into these reservoirs and anchoring it through their appreciation of it. So there's really no limit, I see, as to how it can manifest. It can also be really big things like creating new cities, that run on free energy. I mean, who knows? It's really up to us, to decide how we want to experience the light.
So beautiful. So as we move through the healing, the intertemporal healing waves, and then the new temples of light, and then as we start gridding these new forms, new structures, new ideas, new frequencies, new energies, and then moving into this age of mastery, or we're already in the age of mastery. So tell us more about that.
I don't think there's necessarily a cutoff of this particular date begins the age of mastery. I think it's really more like a coming of age. It's sort of like, where are we in our own development? Because ultimately, we are masters. We are already masters. And this is a journey of remembrance. So the more we ignite our confidence, not from a place of ego, but from a place of really knowing the purity of our soul and where we come from, right? We come from source. We come from love. And the more we anchor that into our existence and accept it as truth, the more we can show up supportively to the people around us through healthy communion with our communities as well as with nature, and act more responsibly. A lot of it is really humble work. True masters don't necessarily need a lot of showiness to prove that they're masters. They've simply mastered themselves. They've mastered their sensitivities. They know how to accept constructive criticism without immediately exploding with defensiveness, for example. Or if they do, they hold themselves accountable. They know how to apologize. It's not really about being perfect so much as it is being totally aware and accepting of all the parts of ourselves and integrating it and accepting it as a part of the story. It's not a rejection of our shadow, but rather a reclaiming of our shadow as an important part of our lesson learning, and then honoring that and then putting it in its place so that it's not necessarily taking the wheel, but is participating in our reflection and our dichotomies, our polarities, so that we can understand what we do want and what we don't want.
I think that's so great. And I call that your inner union foundation. If you don't have that inner union and there's parts of yourself you have not honored, or you're shoving it down, you're not in union, and you can't move higher in the ascension waves or direction, because there's still parts that you need to look at and to integrate. And it's all oneness. It's all part of you, all part of your soul. So I completely agree with that. I feel as you can handle difficult conversations more easily, it doesn't trigger you. As you have less triggers, I think that's a sign. You can maybe chat with someone that used to trigger you, or, an ex relationship, or a difficult student in your classes. And then all of a sudden it doesn't bring that up because you've healed it. I feel like that's a really good sign. I know just in my path, I used to have a temper when I was running a clothing business. Because I was just pushing myself and, not listening to myself. And then with this deep energy of this being unwound and rewound in my life, it's really hard to rile me up. I really don't, maybe Los Angeles auto traffic. That seems to get me sometimes, but it really doesn't, because there's not much there to trigger now. I feel like that's my own litmus test for, and for also being a master. I say everyone is masters. I totally agree in that. We're all masters and we're all remembering. Thank you for saying that, because I totally believe in that. It's not student teacher any longer. There's no guru who is going to give you the answers. Like, we don't give you the answer here today. We give you food for thought, and we give you ideas that are like you, with your own discernment, like, yes, I'm not sure, I need to investigate that a little more. Do your own research, do your own cultivation. So yeah, what do you feel? And I am just so amazed at this subject today, because I love all parts of it. But in closing, what do you feel you'd like to leave this community with what these huge topics that you shared today, and this kind of just touching on them? What would you like to share as your final thought or statement for today and this incredible journey that you've taken us on?
Well, I think that adding to this concept of the age of mastery is going to really be an exciting time in each of our lives, in our own time, in divine timing, when we start to step into that realization and that experience. It's going to be a time of unity within ourselves that's then reflected outside of ourselves, where we start to see others as true reflections of our own selves. And that's a new level of love that can come in. And with that comes inspiration as to what's needed. What should I create? We're going to understand more, because our empathy is going to increase, and it's not necessarily going to come with the same pains that empathy can sometimes. I know a lot of empaths can sometimes be overwhelmed with what they feel from others. But as we're coming to these higher levels of self-awareness and not being triggered as easily, we can take in that empathetic information and know intuitively what is needed in each moment. And so what I'd like to leave your audience with today is trust yourself. Trust yourself more than ever before, and forgive yourself if you make any mistakes along the way. Don't think for a moment that it means you're not a master. It's only an opportunity to dive deeper. Really allow yourself to dream big. Think about what it is you deeply want from your heart. And even if it seems really wonky and out there and you can't explain it to your friends and family, just keep that flame burning for yourself. Allow those passions to build gently and drive your vessel towards what you need in life, whether that's someone that can help with support and guidance, or someone that can inspire and catalyze a new phase in your life, or a place that is calling you, that maybe you have some soul contract and entrustment with, to be there to anchor the light. Trust your inner guidance, and be playful with your creative energy. Feel light. Connect with the inner child. We've done a lot of inner child healing over these past couple of years, and maybe longer for many of us. Maybe there's a little more to do, and that's fine too.
Oh, fun.
Yeah, but the child is ready to play. Even if it's not perfectly healed yet, there's always room and time to play. And make time for that, I would say. Make time for playful ritual and ceremony, and dreaming and drawing, creating, however it comes through you. Trust yourself and be playful, and be excited, because I feel that we are really being supported in so many beautiful ways right now.
I love that. Be playful and trust your intuition and dream big. And I love that, because that's how you create new universes. And I thank you so much. And Aliyah, how can people find you?
Okay, so Telegram is a good way to find me. I'm Angelic Indigo on Telegram. You can also reach out through email, angelicindigo@proton.me. And you can set up a consultation with me. I'm pretty much donation based. I'm very open to any economic background. I won't turn anybody away who's in need of some support. So feel free to reach out. I learn so much from each person that I work with, and it's an honor when I get the opportunity. So yeah.
Oh, amazing. And tell us about your free gift that you have for us.
Right. So the free gift is something that I call the Lahoda Butterfly Activation Meditation. This was given to me during a vision journey where I was visited by a butterfly spirit who expressed that she, or it, was a part of a larger collective of beings in just the fifth dimension. They had descended from much higher than that to reach us close by, and just offer this slight lift This meditation is meant to balance the divine masculine and feminine energies and anchor it in our eighth chakra, the higher heart. And so it's just very soothing, and I find it very helpful, and had some really cool dreams after the first time I did it. So
what a beautiful gift. Thank you for explaining it. And those links are in the post and the captions with this video, and you can reach Aliyah. Her email and her link is there, and take advantage of her free gift and balance your divine feminine and divine masculine essences with this beautiful butterfly frequency. I love it. The metamorphosis of the butterflies. Well, I thank you so much, Aliyah. And I thank you, beloveds, and thank you for joining us at Light Priestess Temple Live Creator Spotlight and opening the new community of light with the new beloveds. And I send you so much love. And thank you, sister, for all your wisdoms. And we will see you at the next Creator Spotlight. And join us then. And much love, beloveds. Much love.
Namaste.
Namaste. And I am Jennifer Ashir Ra. Activate your highest codes.